Hi, everyone. Here we have an episode today on Be Heard, Women Empowering Women. And I have for my guest, Delicia Niami. Now, did I pronounce it correctly?
It's actually Delicia, just like Alicia, but with a
Delicia.
D.
Okay.
Yeah.
I knew I wasn't. Delicia.
But you
Okay.
did say the Niami part right, which
Well,
a lot of
that's
people
good.
say Niami.
Oh,
So
I got that right.
yeah,
Oh, just think of delicious.
there you
All
go.
right. So, no, I'm going to be calling you that now. She wrote Asphalt, the courageous true story of one child's unbreakable spirit. From kidnapping and abuse to self love. That's quite a title right there. And it's a memoir. And the book recounts the author's experience of being taken from Los Angeles by her father at the age of 4 and taken to Iraq, a world that, of course, she had never known, very different from the world you did know. And the book also covers years of abuse and sexual assault, plus bullying at school, and the bizarre incident where your birth father, I said that already, he kidnapped you. Let's start with that. What happened there, the kidnapping? I gather your mother and father got divorced.
They were actually separated at the time, and I believe they were going through a divorce, but I'm not sure if they actually were. I think they were just separated.
Okay.
And my mom was dating a cop, actually, another guy at the time, and they weren't living together or anything. And I was 4, and my brother was 7 at the time, and we were playing on the front lawn of our house, and my mom was on a ski trip in Big Bear with her new found boyfriend,
Mm,
and my aunt was watching us, but apparently she was in the backyard while we were in the front yard,
mm.
and our father pulled up and said, "Hi kids, let's go to Disneyland." So as a 4-year-old and a 7-year-old, of course, we got very excited about the prospect of going to Disneyland with our father, who we hadn't seen in probably a year or so. So, because their separation was pretty hairy, I guess.
Yeah.
So, so we were really excited to see our father. We were really
Yeah.
excited to go with him. We knew we were supposed to go with him on our Easter break. So it wasn't odd that he was showing up and
Yeah.
saying, let's go to Disneyland to start our,
Yes,
week-long
of course.
time
And you
together.
and not even say anything to anybody like he's here. You're gonna jump in the car, you're excited.
Exactly.
It reminds me of my ex-husband that my children's father, he would never come to see them. He didn't pay child support, but he would like play games, and he told them he was going to take them to Disney World for one time. And they were 4 and 5 years old. And I remember them sitting in the window waiting for him for hours.
Oh,
And the person I was with at the time said, no, let's go. Get him in the car. We'll go to a park or something. But yeah, that's really cruel to do to children. I mean, maybe you think you're hurting your wife, but you're not. You're hurting the
well,
children.
and that was his goal, right? He just wanted to stab her in the back because he felt like he had been
Oh,
stabbed in the back. So he used us to do that,
yeah.
and then so we end up at LAX, and my brother, who's a little older than me, is like, "Excuse me, why are we at LAX and not going to Disneyland?" And
Mhm.
he's, "Oh, we're going to Disney World." So then we get
Oh,
really excited.
Florida. Yeah. Oh,
Yeah, and when no questions asked, we just get on the plane and we end up in Baghdad.
and my
And
ex used to do like when you say the train hurt the woman, he would do such terrible things like he did have the kids one weekend and he had a girlfriend. So because he had a girlfriend that he was living with, he thought, let me try this. So he told me he wasn't bringing them back. And we didn't have any official agreements at that time, who was supposed to see who and all that. So um, I was like, okay, but I'll see them on the weekends. Yeah, you'll see them on the weekends. So I got a job, and I did that, and I didn't mind because the weekends I had quality time with them. They weren't going to school or anything, so really it was
right.
nice. So when he found I adjusted, he decided that wasn't going to work. So it was Easter Sunday. I was at my parents', their doorbell rang, and here's my two lovely little girls, like, 4 and 5 years old, with their suitcases. And they said, Mommy, Daddy said if you don't want us, we're going to an orphanage. Now, come on, Delicia. I
Oh,
mean, how heartbreaking, what a mean person.
super.
But anyway, I understand. So, what motivated you to write the book?
Well, I mean, I had I sort of semi believe in psychics, and I had several different psychics throughout my life tell me to write my book. I'm sorry, my 22-and-a-half-year-old cat keeps
God
crawling around
bless him.
wanting me to
That's
be on my
wonderful.
lap, but
He can
she's
even
used to
move.
being on my lap 24/7,
That's
so
wonderful.
um but essentially, I had been told by many, many psychics to write my life story and that it would be made into a movie.
Mm,
And I was like, whatever. And
yeah.
I had no positive message really to share with the world. And I thought, who
Hmm.
wants to read a book about trauma, trauma, and more trauma?
Hmm.
So I wasn't ready for a very long time. I wasn't ready until after I read a book called The Body Keeps the Score by Bessel van der Kolk.
I know that book.
It's an
I do know
amazing
that
book.
book. That's a great book.
It's a
Yes.
great book, and there was a lot of huge aha moments for me
Hmm.
of like, so my entire life, people would ask me about my kidnapping, and they
Hmm.
would say, "Wow, that must have been so traumatic for you." And my response was always,
I
I
don't
don't
know.
know. I was 4, like I didn't know any different, right? But after reading that book, I realized that I had PTSD for 44 years and didn't realize it.
I
I was
know that.
48 years old and it hit me like a ton of bricks that
Yeah.
I had PTSD. Not only PTSD, I had something called intermittent explosive disorder that
Oh,
he names out in the book. That happens to a lot of people that are sexually traumatized as
what
young
happened to
children.
you in Baghdad?
Say that again.
What happened to you when you got to the foreign country of Iraq? Yeah.
I mean, I just went with that family, and it was not in the chapter in the book. I kind of explain the year that we were there and what happened.
Hmm.
Um, and I really So my series of books is the first book is Kissing Asphalt. The next book, Not My Circus, is coming out hopefully March. That's the release date. I'm hoping March 6th, which is my
Hmm.
birthday. That's what my goal is,
Hmm.
to get it out there. And then the third book I'm hoping will be out by September. But
Hmm.
essentially in the third book is where you see my healing journey really take a toll, and I do things like plant
Hmm.
medicine and breath work journeys in Sedona and inner healing child work
Yeah,
and
I did
all
that.
these different kinds
I
of
did all that.
modalities that I
Yeah.
try to like. Once I realized and I read this book, that I realized I have a lot of trauma that I need to deal with, that I started dealing with it on these different
Yeah.
levels.
Yeah.
And um
Was
one
your
of the
father?
things I did, one of the things I did was breath work. And during the time that I did breath work, I had a memory where I was back in Baghdad with
Hmm.
my little girl. And it was so real. I could smell the smells of the house. I could feel the walls. And it was just really crazy
Hmm.
how this blocked memory just came out during this breath
Hmm.
work. And I was able to really kind of resolve things. I don't want to give away the story, but I was able
Yeah.
to kind of resolve things with that memory during that breathwork session. And so I talk about that in my third book, which is called The Queen of Silver Linings.
Oh,
And
cool.
and this is where it shows really my resilience and my triumph in life. And
We
the
are
whole point
so
of the
similar. I'm
series.
amazed. I'm so amazed because I had some trauma and I had things happen to me um, in my childhood. My father put my brother and I in an orphanage for a week while my third sibling was being born. Like, why he thought that was a babysitting place, I don't know. But it was very traumatic for us
I'm
because
sure.
we didn't know why we were in an orphanage. It was like terrible. and then other things that happened. But um, I've done a lot of the same work that you're talking about, and it's amazing. And I have a lot of blocked memories, and I have PTSD from ex-husbands and the trauma and abuse from them. But that book you mentioned, The Body Keeps the Score, I got to read that again. That is a great book for analyzing what we're talking about. And so you, up to then, like when you were first, when you were denying that you even had a traumatic experience, if you weren't really looking at it. So let's say denial. How are you coping now? Because you really had been in a trauma.
You know, I pushed everything down for a long time, and I smoked a lot of pot, and I think I did that. I honestly think it helped save my life on a lot of ways because it helped me not have to deal with all of that. And actually, somebody gave me a metaphor once when I was younger. They said, "You don't get high unless you keep it in." And I'm like, that's
Ah,
interesting. Like I keep everything in, I
yeah,
push everything down. And that's the reason why I do that, is because it really suppresses
yeah.
the emotion that goes along with feeling the trauma. So,
Yeah,
I
well,
mean,
that's what addicts do. I mean, I'm a recovering alcoholic and food addict, and that's what you do. You numb your feelings because you don't want to feel them, and you don't want to go deep. And I didn't get sober till I was like 41 years old. I have 34 years in May sober. Um,
oh, congrats.
thank you. But I went through a lot of stuff before I got there. And then when I thought everything was coming up roses, the man of my life, business, everything, I got deep depression and I had to go inpatient for that. So it's like, oh, and I picked up food at one point because I still wanted to numb the feeling. So it took a lot of therapy and I hated it because I'd always cry and cry. I hated it.
Yeah, for me now, it's like I transferred it to sugar. So sugar is a big, big one
I
for me
know.
that I
Yeah. Well,
do
you
stay
still have
away
things to
from.
deal with probably, right?
Oh
So,
yeah, yeah. No, I
yeah.
have to stay away. There's Snickers bars everywhere I turn, you know? Yeah, by
So,
far.
how did you find the courage to share your story publicly?
Well, and that's what I was getting to once I read that book. I did a workshop at Bessel's house with several
Oh,
other people, and this was in October of 2019.
mm-hmm.
And it really inspired me and encouraged me. And I realized that I had not only my trauma to share at that point, but I had a positive message to share with the world. And that was what was important to me,
Yeah,
was to have that positive message to
right.
share with the world, which is that we are all resilient and
Yeah,
that we can all
yeah,
come through whatever we're dealt with in
yeah.
life. I mean, I've had
Me
several
too.
friends take their own lives, and if that's something with my book series that I can help somebody else not do,
Absolutely. Absolutely.
that is worth all of
Mhm.
everything that I went through writing this.
Well, 2020 was tough for everybody, but in different ways. And my husband has Parkinson's, and I was recovering from breast cancer and I have an autoimmune disease. And long story short, we decided not to go out at all. Like we were in the house for 9 months. Everything got delivered, and I my house got so organized you can't believe. And I would find things that needed to be fixed, and oh, it's crazy. But I also got depressed because I'm a
Right.
very social person, and I knew I was getting depressed because I was being mean to him. So I contacted my primary, who got me to a psychiatrist who prescribed an antidepressant and got me into therapy again. So I'm like back in therapy at 75 years old. Anyway,
Hey, therapy is never a bad thing, you
no,
know.
it's
I mean,
not.
I
It's
do it
not.
3 times a week, so.
Oh, I wish I see her every 2 weeks, and I always
A
tell
different
her,
therapist, though. I do
yeah,
like a
oh,
trauma
different one.
therapist, and then I do a DBT, CBT group, and then I have
Oh,
another therapist that I
oh,
pay for
cool.
that.
Yeah, I have a support group. I have a support group for caregivers once a week, and then I have my own therapy. But it doesn't, I have a lot of blocked memories. a lot.
Me too.
And I did some work with someone that had like me quiet and doing certain breathing. And I can't think of what she was doing now. She was doing some kind of sounds. And it has to do like the archangels. I should be better prepared if I'm going to talk about this. But you know what? I did have some kind of a breakthrough. Like this breathing and chanting and all the meditation and all these
Awesome.
things, they do help.
Oh, big time.
Yeah.
Big
A lot of
time. I
people
mean,
scoff, you know, but no, they
they can
help.
scoff all they want. I mean,
Yeah.
so I also have an autoimmune. I've suffered from Crohn's disease for a very
Mm,
long time.
mm,
And, I do talk about that in my second
mhm.
book that I got diagnosed. And in my third book, speaking of 2020, my colon ruptured right in the midst of COVID. While I too
Oh, God.
was, scared to death and didn't want to go
Mm-mm,
anywhere. I was
mm-mm.
life or death. I had to go to the hospital. So yeah, I live with a colostomy bag now, and it's
Oh,
just you have to really turn it around and have a positive attitude about it all, right? But
well, I think the positive attitude that women like us have is that we talk about this stuff publicly so that people can relate and feel like, oh, I'm not alone. That's a big thing.
well,
I mean,
honestly, like you asked me one question in the emails, and that was like, how did you feel okay sharing this publicly? And it was really, really hard. It
yeah,
was to be as vulnerable as I was, putting it all out there was extraordinarily difficult. And yeah, it's funny because some of the reviews are like, wow, she puts it all out there. And it's like, no, you guys, I barely scratched the surface of stuff that happened.
yeah,
I just
yeah,
wanted to give people snippets of
yeah,
things that had happened in my life to show people that we can all get through this. And the whole point
yeah.
is like, if I can get through these things, like
Hmm.
anybody can get through them. I'm nobody special.
My therapist had me write because my husband wasn't communicating very much and the silence was getting to me. And she said, go in your room every day at the same time and just write. And that's how I wrote my book, Raised by Wolves, Trapped by Demons. So
Right.
the wolves were my parents and the men in my life were my demons.
Oh,
But
wow.
then as I wrote the book, other demons came up. The men were my
Exactly.
yeah, the men weren't my only demons. So my book turns out to be about resilience and resolve and grit and getting through it and then finding a spiritual path. That's why I said we're a lot alike, our stories. And
Yeah,
because of
completely.
that, it's amazing what the ball starts rolling. He wrote that first book. I wrote that first book. Then I ended up writing another book and this podcast, which I feel I'm helping a lot of women with, you know, just hearing this. It's okay.
Thank you for doing the podcast.
Oh,
Appreciate
yeah.
it.
It's great. I just went with a doctor on eating disorders. And, that's something that's common with women,
Oh,
more with
yeah.
more with women than men. But so anyway, this heart-wrenching experience you had, um, you talked about the unbreakable bonds of family. What do you mean by that?
I didn't
You
talk
didn't say
about
that?
that really.
It's somebody in your, okay,
So
there's
one of the
somebody,
reviewers, one of the
maybe
reviewers had
that's where I
actually
got it.
talked about something like that, but
Because
I
I
have the
couldn't
most
get it.
dysfunctional family on the planet,
Ah,
honestly.
that's why I read that and I
Like,
thought,
yeah, no, doesn't resonate. Like,
no,
I talked a lot about my family, what I like to coin my
oh,
family, who's my friend family.
got it.
And these are people that don't really come into the story until kind of the end of the book. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but they're still my friends and my family today. I mean, I spend
Yes.
Thanksgiving with them. They're
Yeah.
my brother from another mister and my sister, my
Yeah,
brother
I
from
do.
another mother and my sister from another mister. So
Yeah,
I I've got several of those people who
that's it.
treat me
Yeah.
better than my own family does. So I
Mm,
embrace them. And my third book is actually dedicated to them because
to
they are
who?
my family.
Who is it
My
that they took?
family.
The family. Okay, that
My
makes sense.
family. So
Yeah,
I have people that have been there with me from the time I was 15 years old
yeah,
that have supported me and uplifted me and done way more for me than my own family has done. I mean,
that's
I'm
a true.
pretty much estranged from my blood family, except
Mhm,
for my brother Niall, and my other brother Patrick passed away, which
mhm,
you can read about in
mhm.
the third book, I think, as well, The
Oh,
Queen of Silver Linings. So, um, but yeah, it's and my nephews from my both my brothers. So other than that, like I don't
mhm.
talk to my aunts. I
No,
don't
I'm
talk.
not close. Well, my parents are dead now, and I did not write the book till after they died, which was great because I didn't have to worry about hurting feelings. I didn't hold
Right.
back, and there was a little pushback from his side of the family, which is ridiculous because the book was not about them. But I think I think what it was is they're like Irish Catholic, old fashioned people. And
Hmm.
when we grew up and they'd say, what happens here stays here. Don't air your dirty laundry, that kind of thing.
Oh
And
yeah.
yeah, so
Well, that's
that,
the honestly, I talk a lot about I don't talk a lot. I touch on the
mhm,
fact that we need to, and maybe I do this more in the second book, but we really need to stop making pedophilia so taboo in this country because
ooh,
it
came out of
exists.
nowhere. What do you
Well,
mean by
well,
that?
just like you were talking about family secrets.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
and you're not supposed to air your dirty laundry.
right.
And that's one of the biggest things, that's the biggest taboo in this country. And it's probably one of the biggest things that affects us on such a huge level that nobody knows about because of family secrets. And you're not supposed to air your dirty laundry. But you know
Mhm,
what? If nobody talks about it, then
mhm.
nobody talks about it. It still remains that problem forever and ever and ever.
Right, and
And all
there's
these kids are being abused and
it's still
nobody ever
coming.
knows about it.
Yes, it's still coming to light. Cults that that we don't really know too much about them, and um, oh, just awful things. But I have a part of my story where I'm 16 and a 26-year-old married man tries to seduce me, and I didn't have sex with him, but I had like a little affair thing, puppy dog love for me. He was very handsome and good Catholic girl. I went to confession, and the priest never said anything that he was doing wrong, the man. He just told me I should put myself in the wife's shoes. And when I think about it later in life, I think to myself, wait a minute, he was a pedophile. I was 16. The law would, today, if they found out, he'd be arrested.
Oh,
I was a
yeah.
minor, you know, but then we get into, I have a couple chapters too about a different type of pedophilia that I'm not going to
I
just.
mean, it's something that happens on such a regular basis, but
Yes,
nobody knows
yes,
about it. And it's
yes.
really, and I believe I've had conversations with my molesters, deep conversations,
Mm.
and I believe personally that it could be a mental misfiring, in the
Oh, yeah.
brain.
I don't think
Because
people are
they totally
evil.
believe that they're showing
Hmm.
you love and that what they're doing
Yeah.
is okay and that they're being kind. And it's like,
Hmm.
no, you don't get it. Like
Yeah.
it's just like I don't understand how they could so not get it unless it's not a misfiring in the
Hmm.
brain. And but it's so taboo, there's no research. Like
Mm.
maybe if people
Mm.
were able to be more open about it and talk about it with their therapist and get help for it if they know it's a
Hmm.
problem, maybe some of them don't want to do that and they know like
Yeah.
this isn't right when
But
maybe
I
as
can't
much
stop
as like
myself. Hmm.
yeah, as much as I was feeling when I was a child and it happened to me, I mean, he didn't even have to touch me the first time I was molested, but I was frozen. I couldn't move, and I think he
Hmm.
thought I was watching because I liked it. No, I was watching because I couldn't do
Get
anything
back.
else. I was literally frozen,
Yeah.
petrified, scared to death.
And how
You
old were
know,
you?
I was 7
Yeah.
and it continued until I was 12
Yeah. See,
with the same man.
I always wonder about that because after that orphanage incident that I told you about, I have no memories until I'm 11. So from 5
Oh,
to
wow.
11, I don't really. And my psychiatrist at the one time, I said, maybe you should hypnotize me. And he was going to hypnotize me, but he couldn't. He said, you're one of those people that can't be hypnotized.
Hmm.
Whatever it was, I didn't do it. And then he said to me, very interesting. He said, your brain is an amazing thing, and sometimes it doesn't want you to remember. It's protecting you.
Exactly. I stopped doing EMDR therapy because of that. I felt in my body and my bones all these red flags coming up when all these memories started coming back to me. You know,
Mm-hmm.
the EMDR brings back your memories, and I'm like,
Yeah,
no, I can't do it. I can't do it.
yeah,
We need to do art therapy or something else. This is not for me. I don't
yeah,
need to see any more trauma that I've had, you know? I mean, like you said, the same thing happened to me as I was writing. Things would start flashing, you know, and I'm like, whoa, what was that? You know,
yeah. I
and
never
memories
thought
would start
about it
coming
that
back.
way.
So
Yeah, yeah. I
I
know.
actually I never really had anxiety or panic attacks until after I wrote my first book.
I had them before, but you have a different situation with. I think a lot of stuff is coming up for you, um, and will still come up for you because you're still writing.
Well, and I think it's better the second book because the second book starts when I'm 17, so my memories are there and I remember
Mm-hmm,
pretty much
mm-hmm.
everything.
Yeah.
And my life started getting better at that point, and I had a lot of positives as much as I had still some negatives in my life, but it wasn't nearly as much as my childhood, you know?
Well, yeah, because one of the main things, and I think both our books, is the factor of hope. That and resilience is a big one too. That's important. Um, there's a guy, Kazimierski, his name is, and he wrote a book called The Third Factor. And people always say, "Oh, is it genetic or is it learned?" And there's certain behavior. Like, were you born with that or did you learn that? And that's why you're who you are. And he said there's the third factor. And the third factor is some people dig down really deep and say, that's not who I am. And they have the power to go their way. It's a struggle. It's a struggle. But he calls it grit. And it's they resolve that they're going to do something and they have resilience and they bounce back from the bad things. I didn't go to college till I was 28, but it was something I wanted to do. My parents stopped me from doing it. And at 28, with 2 kids and no child support, I went to college.
Good
That's
for
the
you.
that's the third factor,
That's
right?
awesome.
Yeah, that's the
Yeah,
third factor. But that's what I think implies with your story too. Is that thing that as dark as it might be, you can learn to find the light, even if it's just a
exactly.
little glimmer, right?
Exactly. Even if it's just a little glimmer, you got to hang on to that and try and always keep that positive mindset no matter what. And,
Yeah.
I talked about this on a different podcast, but one of the things I didn't write in my book that I used to do as a kid when I'd be walking home, let's say, and most of the time when it was raining and
Mm-hmm.
I had been picked on all day and I was a miserable elementary school experience for me.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd walk home in the rain, and instead of sulking, I
Mm-hmm.
would sing and dance like Gene Kelly
Yeah,
in the
I
rain,
think it's really
and
love
spin
it.
around with my umbrella. And I don't
That's
know where
it.
it came from.
That's
I was
that's
like 8, 9. I
yeah,
don't know where it
that's
came
it.
from.
That's what he's talking about. It's like, yeah, your family, your genetics, but then there's that third thing that's unique to you. But some people don't look for it or feel it for
Or
whatever
accept
reason.
it. I think one of the
Accept it.
problems is that society, it puts so much pressures on us as human beings and especially as adults. I watch kids on the street and the
Mm,
way that they act sometimes, and I'm
mm,
talking not when they're having meltdowns. I'm talking about when they're having fun. I want to do that too. But if I
yeah.
did that, people would look at me like I was a lunatic, and it's like, I think that sort of pressure from society, I do to my best friends that I have in this world are two people that I can go out and act like that on the
Yeah, you don't
street
have to
with.
be a
And
grown
they
up
don't
all
get
the time.
embarrassed,
Yeah,
you know?
exactly.
We
That's what you need.
we
Fun.
embrace the fun.
exactly.
And
And you need
life
to
is
do
about
that.
fun, life's too short to not have
Yes,
fun,
absolutely.
you
I
know?
agree. Now we're going to have you back. The second book is coming out soon.
Yes.
So you get in touch with me, or I'll get in touch
Okay.
with you.
Thank
And
you.
then we'll have a whole new something topic. I'm sure it'll be great. And we'll have another episode. How's that?
Awesome. That would be amazing. Thank you for having me on. I really appreciate it.
I
And I'm
had to
sorry it
go
took this
after her.
long.
She was tough to get, people. I'm telling you. I had to chase her for a while.
Yeah,
But
I had,
many emails later, here she is, and it was worth the wait.
well,
So
thank you. I appreciate it.
thank you for coming on. We're going to have you on again. It was
Great.
delightful. All right. You have a great day. You have a great life.
Thank you.